Hey everyone, have you ever had a perfect night turn into a nightmare? Imagine having dinner with your partner, only to realize you're being stalked by someone you don't even know. Or meeting someone new, only to discover they're not who they say they are. Sounds crazy, right? But what if it's not just a story? In tonight's video, we have two chilling tales. The first, about a couple who thought they were just having a romantic evening, only to become targets of obsession. The second, a creepy encounter with a woman who seems sweet at first, but turns out to be hiding a much darker side. What would you do if you realized you were being watched by a stranger? Or if the person you let into your home was hiding something far worse than you could have ever imagined? Let's dive in and find out. Ryan had been dating Emily for 3 years now, and their relationship seemed like a dream. It all started innocently enough, a simple comment on one of her Instagram stories. From there, they quickly moved to Snapchat, and after a week, they finally met in person. The connection was undeniable. With Valentine's Day just around the corner, Ryan couldn't help but feel lucky to have Emily by his side. The thought of spending the holiday together was a relief, especially after years of being single on that dreaded day. But as Valentine's Day approached, Emily confessed something unsettling. She told Ryan about a stalker, someone who had been making her feel increasingly unsafe. His name was Lucas, a guy a few years older than her who she had met in college through a group project. What started off as friendly encounters quickly turned into something much darker. Lucas began following Emily around campus, showing up uninvited and even learning where she lived. He sent her countless creepy text messages, the kind that would make anyone's skin crawl. At first, Emily tried to ignore it, brushing it off as nothing. But things escalated when Lucas sent a box of Russell Stover chocolates to her house. A blatant attempt at romanticizing his obsession. That was the breaking point. Emily decided to confront him, sending him a long message telling him to stop contacting her because she was dating someone. She never reported it to the police, just didn't think it was bad enough yet. But that all changed when Lucas started texting her from fake numbers, even using Ryan's name in his messages. Ryan was already uneasy. Emily's safety was his top priority, but now things were hitting too close to home. Lucas wasn't just obsessed with her anymore, he was now coming after him. One evening, on Valentine's Day, Ryan and Emily were having a quiet dinner at a nice seaside restaurant. It was a beautiful night, clear skies, the soft hum of the ocean waves. But as they enjoyed their meal, they noticed something odd. A man sitting on a bench outside the dining area, with a hat pulled low over his face, was staring in their direction. It was too obvious. Emily laughed it off and joked, "What if that's Lucas?" But when the man tilted his head toward them and quickly looked away, the joking stopped. Ryan felt the weight of the situation sink in. Was that really him? The night had just taken a turn, and neither of them was laughing anymore. The rest of the evening was a blur of uneasy laughter, but the encounter with the man outside weighed heavily on Ryan and Emily. They tried to push it aside, but the doubt gnawed at them. They left the restaurant, deciding to spend the rest of the evening at Ryan's rental house. It felt safer, quieter, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't just Lucas's obsession. Something else was lurking in the air, something she couldn't quite explain. As they settled on the couch, the mood shifted. The silence in the house grew too loud, the creaks of the floorboards, the way the air felt heavier than it should be. Then, out of nowhere, a subtle noise from outside, as if something had moved in the yard. Emily tensed. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Ryan, already on edge, nodded. "Probably just the wind. I'll check it out." He slipped on his slides and stepped outside, the cold night air biting at his skin. The backyard was dark, the only light coming from the faint glow of the street lamp. The yard was quiet, too quiet. As Ryan scanned the bushes, he noticed something odd in the shadows. His heart skipped a beat. There was a figure standing motionless, just out of the light. "Who's there?" Ryan called out, trying to sound calm, but his voice cracked with tension. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it moved quickly, darting toward Ryan with a speed that sent chills down his spine. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just a stranger. Ryan lunged at the figure, taking him to the ground in a frantic struggle. He yelled for Emily to call the police. As Ryan held the man down, his blood ran cold. The figure was wearing the same shirt as the man outside the restaurant earlier. It was Lucas. As Ryan struggled to keep Lucas pinned to the ground, his mind raced. Emily was inside, calling the police, but everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. Lucas's eyes burned with an unsettling calmness, as if he wasn't scared, just irritated. The desperation in his movements was terrifying. Ryan pressed harder, yelling for Emily to hurry, but the words felt too hollow in the heavy air. The backyard felt suffocating. The sound of distant traffic, the rustling of leaves, and Lucas's steady breathing were the only things he could hear. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, Emily rushed outside, her face pale as she stood frozen for a moment, taking in the scene. Ryan's voice was sharp as he looked up at her. "Is this him?" Emily's gasp confirmed it. "Oh my God. Yes, that's him. That's Lucas." At that moment, everything clicked into place for Ryan. The strange man at the restaurant, the way he'd been watching them earlier, it all made sense. Lucas had been there the entire time, just waiting for the right moment to strike. The police arrived shortly after, sirens blaring in the distance. Ryan stayed on top of Lucas, making sure he wouldn't escape. When the officers finally got to them, they quickly cuffed Lucas and hauled him away. The tension lifted, but only slightly. The threat was gone for now, but the damage had been done. Emily was shaken but relieved. She showed the officers the obsessive text Lucas had sent, and it was clear this wasn't just a simple crush gone wrong. This was a calculated, dangerous obsession. Lucas was arrested for trespassing and harassment, and Emily filed for an order of protection. It wasn't over, but for the first time in days, she felt a little safer. As the police took Lucas away, the night began to settle into an eerie quiet. Ryan stood by Emily, his hand on her shoulder, offering a sense of protection that felt fragile at best. Emily was still in shock, her breath shallow, her eyes wide as she watched Lucas being shoved into the back of the patrol car. She'd never imagined it would come to this. Her life turned into a horror story she couldn't escape. The officers assured them that Lucas would be charged with stalking and harassment, and his actions would be documented, but the words felt empty. The terror they had lived with for weeks now seemed impossible to shake off. "Are you okay?" Ryan asked gently, his voice breaking the silence. She turned to look at him, and he showed her the message. The color came from her face as she stared at the words. "I don't understand," she stammered. It's impossible. I've changed my number. I blocked everything. How could?" Ryan grabbed his phone and dialed the police. Again, he could feel his pulse pounding in his ears as the phone rang. When the officer answered, he quickly relayed the message. "It's not over," Ryan said, his voice tight with panic. "We need to make sure Lucas hasn't found a way to contact her again." The officer promised to follow up, but Ryan wasn't reassured. They had already done everything by the book. Lucas had been arrested, had charges pressed against him, and Emily had gotten an order of protection. But this text, this new threat, made all of that seem like it wasn't enough. They spent the rest of the night checking and rechecking the locks, the windows, and the security system. The house that once felt safe now felt like a prison. Every sound outside made them both jump, and Emily couldn't stop glancing at her phone, waiting for more messages to come through. But as the hours passed, the silence began to weigh heavier and heavier. The night was long, each minute crawling by. Then, just as Ryan started to believe that maybe it was just a mistake, the phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. "I'm already in the house." Ryan's blood ran cold. "I'm already in the house." His mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Emily's phone was on the table, but she was sitting next to him, looking shaken, yet unaware of what he was reading. Could it be a prank? He wanted to believe that, but something in the back of his mind told him it was no coincidence. "Emily," Ryan said, his voice unsteady. She turned to look at him, and he showed her the message. The color drained from her face as she stared at the words. "Two don't understand," she stammered. It's impossible. I've changed my number. I blocked everything. How could?" Ryan grabbed his phone and dialed the police. Again, he could feel his pulse pounding in his ears as the phone rang. When the officer answered, he quickly relayed the message. "It's not over," Ryan said, his voice tight with panic. "We need to make sure Lucas hasn't found a way to contact her again." The officer promised to follow up, but Ryan wasn't reassured. They had already done everything by the book. Lucas had been arrested, had charges pressed against him, and Emily had gotten an order of protection. But this text, this new threat, made all of that seem like it wasn't enough. They spent the rest of the night checking and rechecking the locks, the windows, and the security system. The house that once felt safe now felt like a prison. Every sound outside made them both jump, and Emily couldn't stop glancing at her phone, waiting for more messages to come through. But as the hours passed, the silence began to weigh heavier and heavier. The night long, each minute crawling by. Then, just as Ryan started to believe that maybe it was just a mistake, the phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. I'm already in the house. Ryan's heart dropped as he stared at the text. I'm already in the house. The words lingered in the air, the weight of them pressing down on his chest like a ton of bricks. His first instinct was to grab Emily and run, but where could they go? The house was supposed to be their safe place. The place where they had spent so many nights together, now turned into a nightmare they couldn't escape. He glanced at Emily, her face ashen, her eyes wide with fear. What if he's really here? She whispered. I'll go check, Ryan said, trying to sound calm. But even to his own ears, his voice betrayed him. He grabbed the flashlight from the drawer and moved toward the hallway. Every creak of the floorboards felt amplified in the silence, the house now feeling like a labyrinth of shadows. He scanned each room as he moved through the house, his heart pounding in his chest. The air felt thick, as if the walls were closing in. He checked the back door, the windows, and the garage, but there was no sign of anyone. The house seemed empty, almost too empty. Emily was still in the living room, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. Ryan could feel his pulse race as he moved cautiously back toward her. Where could Lucas be? Just as he reached the doorway, a sound echoed through the house, a low, guttural whisper. I'm right behind you. Ryan spun around, his heart nearly stopping in his chest. Standing at the end of the hallway was a shadow tall, dark, and unmistakably human. Emily screamed. Ryan didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, grabbing a nearby lamp and hurling it at the figure. But as it hit the ground, the figure disappeared into the shadows with a terrifying laugh. Seconds later, the police arrived, but Lucas was gone. The house, which had once felt like a sanctuary, was now a reminder of the terror that would never leave them. Olivia and Ethan had been looking forward to their Valentine's Day dinner for weeks. After weeks of busy schedules and work stress, this night was supposed to be their time to relax, unwind, and simply enjoy each other's company. They had decided on a nice, quiet restaurant by the river in Portland, Oregon, away from the hustle and bustle. The night air was crisp as they walked hand in hand to the entrance, the soft glow from the restaurant's windows inviting them in. When they arrived, they were greeted by the hostess, and everything seemed normal at first. But as they were waiting for their table, a couple approached them with too much enthusiasm. The woman, wearing a bright red dress that almost seemed out of place, smiled widely and introduced herself. I'm Mrs. Blackburn, she said in a voice that was almost too sweet. Her husband, a tall man with graying hair and a stiff, unnatural smile, stood behind her, saying nothing. Mrs. Blackburn continued, You two make such a wonderful couple. We're photographers, and we believe you both would make the perfect subjects for a photo shoot. We'd love to take some pictures of you, right here at our studio. Olivia smiled awkwardly, unsure of how to respond. Oh, that's nice, but we're just here for dinner, she said, her voice trailing off as she looked at Ethan, hoping he'd catch on. The man, Mr. Blackburn, finally spoke up. No worries, we're just around the corner. Our studio is 5 minutes away. Why don't you come check it out? It'll only take a few minutes, and we'll even treat you to a meal afterward. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his instincts telling him something wasn't right. He politely declined, saying they had plans to spend the evening together. But Mrs. Blackburn's smile only widened. We totally understand, she said, her tone still overly sweet. But you two look so good together. A couple like you deserves to be immortalized in photos. She stepped closer, and for the first time, Olivia noticed how intensely Mrs. Blackburn's eyes seemed to lock onto them, almost as if she were studying them, sizing them up. Ethan quickly ushered Olivia into the restaurant, brushing off the strange encounter, but the unsettling feeling lingered. They both tried to laugh it off, but something about the interaction felt off. And as they took their seats at the table, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone anymore, that the couple, in their strange offer, wasn't just a coincidence. As the evening continued, Olivia and Ethan tried to focus on their dinner. They sat at a cozy corner table, tucked away from the rest of the restaurant, but the conversation was strained. The food tasted bland, and the laughter that usually flowed so easily between them felt forced. The memory of the Blackburns' offer lingered in the back of their minds, and neither of them could shake the feeling that something was off. Just as they were beginning to relax a bit, the man, Mr. Blackburn, was there again, standing near the edge of their table. His sudden appearance startled them both, but he didn't seem apologetic. Instead, he smiled that same disconcertingly wide smile, his eyes too sharp, too focused. "You two make such a lovely couple," he said, his voice calm and too rehearsed. "Have you given any thought to our offer? It would be an experience you won't forget." Olivia and Ethan exchanged uncomfortable glances. Ethan cleared his throat. "I think we're good, thanks." Mr. Blackburn didn't move, his gaze locked on them like a hawk eyeing its prey. "Are you sure? It would only take a moment. We could really make something special out of this night." Just then, a voice from behind them caught Olivia's attention. Mrs. Blackburn was standing by the entrance, staring at them both. Her expression was unreadable, but there was a glint in her eyes, a look that sent a chill down Olivia's spine. Olivia's heart began to pound in her chest. "We need to go now," she whispered, her voice shaky. She turned to Ethan, and his face was pale. They both knew something wasn't right. Take off the uncomfortable feeling that had settled over them. They finished their dinner quickly, eager to leave the restaurant, but the sense of being watched never really left. As they walked outside, the cold night air hit them like a shock. The Blackburns were nowhere to be seen, and for a brief moment, they felt a sense of relief. They laughed nervously, trying to make light of the situation, and decided to head across the street to the mini-golf course to get their minds off things. But as they entered the empty building, a strange feeling washed over Olivia. The place was too quiet, the lights were dim, and the air had an unnatural chill. They made their way to the course, but the uneasy sensation lingered. It felt as though someone was watching them, even though the space was mostly empty. As they approached the third hole, Olivia froze. Standing at the back of the course, near the exit, was Mrs. Blackburn. She was alone this time, but she wasn't playing or talking to anyone. She was just standing there, staring at Olivia and Ethan with that unnervingly calm expression. When their eyes met, she didn't look away, only smiled the same wide, unsettling smile. Olivia's stomach dropped. What was Mrs. Blackburn doing here? "Ethan," Olivia whispered, her voice shaky. "She's here." Ethan turned, following her gaze. His face paled. He didn't say anything at first, but the tension between them was palpable. They both knew something wasn't right. As Mrs. Blackburn approached, Olivia felt the air grow thick with tension, her pulse quickening with every step the woman took. There was no mistaking it now. This wasn't some innocent offer for a photo shoot anymore. Mrs. Blackburn's eyes locked onto them, her gaze sharp and piercing, and that unnerving smile never left her face. Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside Olivia, trying to hide his unease, but his grip on her hand tightened. "Olivia, we should go," he said, his voice low but urgent. He didn't want to show fear, but Olivia could tell he was just as rattled as she was. Before they could even think of turning around, Mrs. Blackburn was right there, standing just a few feet away. She spoke, her voice smooth, almost hypnotic. "Why rush off so soon? I thought you'd want to know more about our offer. We could do so much more with you two as models. You'd be perfect for our project." Olivia shook her head, her heart racing. "We're not interested," she said firmly, but even to her own ears, her voice was shaky. The sense of dread was suffocating, the woman wasn't leaving, and her presence felt oppressive. Mrs. Blackburn didn't seem to mind her refusal at all. She smiled wider, and it seemed to stretch unnaturally. "I think you will be. You just don't know it yet," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper, as if the words were laced with something sinister. Ethan took a step back, his instincts screaming to get away. "We need to go now," he said, his voice shaking for the first time. He tugged on Olivia's hand, pulling her toward the exit. But as they turned to leave, Mrs. Blackburn stepped in front of them, blocking their path. "You can't run away from this," she said, her voice a chilling echo in the air. "This is meant to happen." Olivia froze. Her skin crawled, and her heart pounded in her chest. The moment felt like it was stretching into forever. Olivia's breath caught in her throat as Mrs. Blackburn blocked their way, her smile still stretched too wide, too unnerving. "You can't run away from this," the woman repeated, her voice low and cold, like the whisper of a ghost that wouldn't let go. Ethan's eyes darted around, trying to find any way out. But every path seemed blocked. The walls felt like they were closing in, and Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that there was no escape from this nightmare. "We need to go now," Ethan said again, more forcefully this time, his voice shaky with fear. He stepped forward, trying to push past Mrs. Blackburn, but she didn't budge. "You don't understand," Mrs. Blackburn said, her tone shifting from sweet to something darker. "This isn't about you anymore. This is about something much bigger. You're both part of something that's already in motion." Olivia's mind raced, her heart pounding harder with every word. What did she mean? What was she talking about? She tried to speak, to protest, but the words caught in her throat. She felt a coldness spread through her veins, a sense of dread that rooted her to the spot. Was this all just a twisted game to them? Was there something more sinister beneath the surface? Ethan finally grabbed Olivia's arm and yanked her toward the far corner of the lot, where the shadows seemed deeper, the light weaker. Olivia could hear her heart pounding in her ears as she was pulled along, every step echoing in the silence that surrounded them. Just as they reached the corner, they saw a faint flash of red and blue lights in the distance. The sound of sirens grew louder, and for a brief moment, hope surged through Olivia. The police were coming. But Mrs. Blackburn wasn't done. "You won't get away. It's already too late," she called after them, her voice an unsettling whisper in the dark. Olivia's heart raced as she and Ethan stood frozen, staring at the headlights of the Blackburns' car now parked in front of the mini-golf course. The dim light from the car bathed everything in an eerie glow, turning the once cheerful landscape into a nightmare. The Blackburns were coming closer. Ethan tugged at Olivia's arm again, his voice low but urgent. "We need to get out of here now." But it was too late. Mrs. Blackburn stepped aside, her smile still chillingly wide, her eyes gleaming with something dark and predatory. "You can't leave," she said, as if she'd been expecting this exact moment all along. "You're already in this. You've already been chosen." Her words sent a shiver down Olivia's spine, but it wasn't just her words that terrified her. It was the calm, calculated way she spoke, as though this was all part of a plan they couldn't escape. Ethan looked at Olivia, his expression tight with fear, his face pale. "We need to go around the back," he said, pulling her toward the side exit. But before they could make it, a voice rang out from behind them. "Where do you think you're going?" It was Mr. Blackburn. He had appeared from the shadows of the parking lot, his silhouette outlined by the car's headlights. "You can't leave me now," he said, his voice low and demanding. A cold wave of panic washed over Olivia. They were trapped. No escape. The world seemed to tilt as the Blackburns slowly advanced on them, and in that moment, Olivia realized something terrible. This wasn't just an obsession. They were hunting them, cornering them. She felt the walls closing in. Ethan, now frantic, pushed her toward the back exit, but it was locked. The fear surged, and with it, the unmistakable feeling that the end of the night was drawing nearer. Olivia's breath caught in her throat as she and Ethan stood, cornered in the dim light of the back parking lot. The Blackburns were closing in. Their movements were slow, deliberate, as if they knew there was no way for Olivia and Ethan to escape. The weight of their gaze felt suffocating, like they were being pulled into a web they couldn't see but could certainly feel tightening around them. "We need to go now," Ethan said again, more forcefully this time, his voice shaky with fear. He stepped forward, trying to push past Mrs. Blackburn, but she didn't budge. "You don't understand," Mrs. Blackburn said softly, her smile too wide, too knowing. "You were always meant to be ours." Ethan's eyes darted around, trying to find any way out, but every path seemed blocked. The walls felt like they were closing in, and Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that there was no escape from this nightmare. In a desperate move, Ethan grabbed Olivia's hand and yanked her toward the far corner of the lot, where the shadows seemed deeper, the light weaker. Olivia could hear her heart pounding in her ears as she was pulled along, every step echoing in the silence that surrounded them. Just as they reached the corner, they saw a faint flash of red and blue lights in the distance. The sound of sirens grew louder, and for a brief moment, hope surged through Olivia. The police were coming, but Mrs. Blackburn wasn't done. "You won't get away. It's already too late," she called after them, her voice an unsettling whisper in the dark. The officers quickly surrounded them, handcuffing Mr. Blackburn and pulling Mrs. Blackburn away. The terror was over. But as the police took the couple away, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. The chill in the air lingered, and she couldn't ignore the whisper in her mind, "You were always meant to be ours." And there you have it, folks. Two tales that show just how quickly an innocent night can turn into a living nightmare. Whether it's a couple stalking you or an uninvited guest in your own home, sometimes the scariest things aren't the ones you see coming, they're the ones that sneak up on you from behind. Which one was your favorite? Or should I say, which one terrified you the most? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new spine-chilling story. Stay safe, and always remember, you never know who or what could be lurking just outside your door. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.